Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and I typically make videos about movies and TV shows. If you're new to the channel, then you don't know that close to early spring, around May, I moved to Philadelphia. And since I've moved here, I've been trying to find furniture, decorate, all the things. Vintage shopping and thrift shopping in general in the city of Philadelphia has been a struggle. So first of all, everything is overpriced. That is from a small business that says it's like an antique shop or vintage shop. So overpriced. You'd be better off going to a Goodwill, which are not very easily available here, and or a Salvation Army, which also is not easily available. Now, there may be some local nonprofit charity-based thrift stores that I'm not familiar with, but the biggies are like Goodwill, Salvation Army. Even though prices have been going up a little bit, they typically are much more affordable than going to a vintage store or a antique shop. So even though in the city of Philly, vintage shops, there's a lot more of them, a lot more small businesses, the stuff is so overpriced. Number one, that's the biggest issue, is cost. It is not less expensive to buy secondhand in this city than it would be to buy new from a big box store, which was a bit of a letdown for me as someone who loves to buy vintage and secondhand, and as someone who owned an online thrift store. It's called Hey Red Shop. You guys should check it out if you're interested. I intend to close the store at the end of this year for space reasons and time and energy reasons. I really want to devote more time to my YouTube channel, and I realized that I cannot feasibly do both at the same time and work my full-time job. So my goal was to find just furniture basics like tables, lamps, storage options. And after looking consistently, I'd say for the past 6 months or so, I haven't found anything. The biggest problem that I have with a lot of the local vintage stores, besides the prices, which are high, is the fact that they don't often have delivery options. And in a city that's set up the way Philly is, you really need that all-in-one delivery service. The way that everything is set up, there's not often accessible parking options. So having a store that also delivers really takes out a lot of the issue with arranging delivery, arranging a proper pickup time, depending on where you are and depending on your building, like if you're in an apartment or if you're in a row house and all of those things. And none of the small businesses that I visited offer delivery services. They'll say, hey, there's a company that we enjoy working with that is very reliable and can, knows our inventory, knows the layout of this area, so they know where to go to pick up the item, etc. And they have a good relationship, but you're still negotiating between two different companies, because once you decide on your purchase, and every company is different, you'll have to have it picked up within a certain amount of time. And when you contact these delivery companies, they'll say that they have a certain window that they can pick up and a certain window where they can deliver the item. So it's all not convenient. It's really time consuming, just the logistics of things. I've been just wandering around, just going to different neighborhoods in the city, trying to find places that have more affordable, cost-effective options for vintage and secondhand items, and places where if the cost is good, hopefully the quality will be good too, because some of these vintage stores that I've been visiting are more like storage facilities that are well decorated. So they have really cute decor options, or they found some really unique ways of displaying things. Every company has a standard. They're like, hey, we just got to get this stuff in and out of here as soon as possible. Cleaning it is not on our high list of priorities. Whoever buys it will just have to deal with it, and that's their choice. But I can also choose to take my business elsewhere. So that is exactly what I did. Uhura Furniture and Collectibles was my go-to for finding really unique pieces of furniture, whether that was like modern, vintage, or antique. But they recently closed, and that was super sad. But the city has started developing over in that area, and the cost of them keeping that location was getting really expensive, so they ended up closing after being in business for like over 25 years. Just traveling to different neighborhoods like Massayunk, don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Squirrel Hill, Fishtown, going into these different neighborhoods, it's just to see what the scale is like. Oftentimes, even if they have an Instagram or if they have a Pinterest account, they won't put the prices underneath the post, which I'm like, I guess that's a way of getting people to come visit your store. But also, I need to know how you're pricing things before I go down there. Like, if it's going to be a waste of my time, then I don't really want to bother. But it's been a struggle to find things that are affordable and things that are accessible. So having to really find reliable delivery services in the city, and then finding a seller or a company that you can really trust are like the two biggest struggles that I'm having here. So the past couple of weeks that I've been absent here, if you guys see videos come out on a regular basis, that means my apartment is a total wreck. Being able to like push out videos on a regular basis, being consistent, causes chaos in my apartment. And without having like certain pieces of like storage and stuff, it can get like really out of hand. So that's why I haven't been posting videos the past couple weeks, because I've been doing the shopping thing, looking for vintage, and doing the Facebook Marketplace dance, and then end up selling it to someone else, just playing that game, I guess. So that's really taking up a lot of my time and energy right now, because I really want to, have everything set up for the holidays, and the holidays are approaching so fast. It's a lot more time intensive and energy intensive than I thought it would be, especially when I see something that I really, really love, and I'm like, oh, that's it. That's the one. That's it. That's the one. And then just needing some follow-up information, like needing more photographs, just to make closer photographs, just to make sure that what I'm looking at, the condition matches. What are the size measurements? Will it fit in the space? Is it real wood or is it laminate? Just the little extra details that would help me as a buyer make a purchase, and it just hasn't worked out so far. So I think I'm going to end up having to go back to reliable old IKEA for a couple of things, which, the goal is to buy vintage and buy secondhand. But at this point, it hasn't been as accessible as I thought it would be. So, for someone who's on a budget, which I am, and who has to have the items delivered because of the location, even though I love vintage, y'all know I love vintage and I love secondhand, I think I'm going to have to go with IKEA, because the options are always readily available. They're as described. And for some of my basic storage things, I don't want it to be like a statement vintage piece. I want them to kind of blend into the background for certain things. I started looking more into closed storage options and ways to integrate that into my space, which I never thought about before. But yeah, I started to create a mood board where I was choosing images based on how they made me feel. Like looking at the decorated spaces, how did those spaces make me feel? And calm, relaxed, or like the two biggest emotions that I was guiding my decisions when I would like pick pictures. And I realized that one of the common threads is that there's a lot of closed storage. There's not a lot of open shelving or things on display necessarily. And I was like, you know what? I've never considered that before. And vintage and antique things that have closed storage are often bulky. Specifically antiques, they're often really heavy and quite bulky. They take up a lot of space, especially the depth. With vintage kind of mid-century pieces, it's sort of the opposite. They're a lot lighter, a lot thinner. They don't take as much square footage, but they do offer a lot of storage options. The thing is, though, even if they're thinner and even if they're lighter, they also tend to be quite big, especially if it's not a specialty piece like a records cabinet or something like that. If you're looking for like a multi-use cabinet kind of thing, they tend to have sliding doors, glass doors, those timbre doors where they kind of fold into the sides when you open them. And that can take up a lot more space. So going to IKEA, I think, will be the next option just for storage reasons, not for decorating reasons. I think I can find some reasonably priced tables or lamps, but the bigger piece items, I might have to travel a bit more to find what I'm looking for. So wish me luck on that. But otherwise, I did want to show you guys some of my favorite thrifted finds from this year. I occasionally indulge in an impulse purchase, even when it comes to vintage and secondhand stuff, especially if I think it's really interesting. But these items I've kept and sort of lived with for a while, so I wanted to share them with you all here. So these are items that I've been collecting probably since the beginning of the year, and I don't think I shared them in a video. I just want to kind of share my style with you all, share the kind of things that grab my attention and the stories that come with some of them, because vintage shopping is not like going into a Target or a Walmart. It's an experience to go into a vintage store or an antique store and sort of go treasure hunting. So I hope you all enjoy. So all of this thrift store talk brings me to the last part of this video, and that is where I show you guys some of my favorite thrifted finds from the past year. It's not a lot. But I just wanted to show you guys the kind of stuff that I look for, or that finds me, as I like to say. So, tiny vintage clocks. I love them. I don't know what happened, but I could not find my alarm clock one day. I was like, I know I had an alarm clock before I started using my cell phone for everything. Couldn't find it and was like, okay, so I'll go on a hunt for alarm clocks. As you all know, I'm a bat, and I cannot handle alarm clocks that have that glowing light, those glowing red lights that show the time. I can't handle it. So I'm looking for small ones that are battery powered, like these, and that don't glow or anything. And I realized something. That I didn't quite trust it. Has that happened to you guys? Where you're like, I have this alarm clock and it's been working like a charm. It's loud. It like really wakes me up in the morning. It's small. I can put it anywhere. But I still use my cell phone with my alarm on it. And it's been a couple weeks and nothing has happened and it works fine and everything, but I still don't quite trust it enough to only use that, so I have my cell phone as like a backup. Don't know why. I feel like eventually I'll forget to set my cell phone or turn that alarm off and then just totally switch over to this one. So It's very simple. I love the wood grain. It looks like somebody was taking really good care of it. I haven't had any problems with it. All I needed to do was clean out where the battery case is and put a new battery in it, and ta-da. Also, in the vein of more practical purchases, I bought a popcorn maker. First of all, don't you love this handle? It doesn't get hot. I thought at first that this was one of those like design fail things where the whole thing gets super hot and I wouldn't be able to grab it, but I can, and all you do is put a little oil in the bottom, corn kernels, and that's it. And you put it on the stove. I don't know where y'all grew up, but where I grew up, these were everywhere. My mom always had these, her friends always had these. Everybody I knew had these bowls. And I know that some people sell them for just crazy amounts of money, but I found these at the store and I realized that I don't have anything like these, just little catch-alls for the random things. One of these is for remotes, of course. But I started doing something silly where I'll put something in there that is cute or unexpected. Like I'll put my remotes in there and then let me grab it. So yeah, so I'll have like my remotes, put my remotes in here, and then I'll put like this in here. And my friend Megan gave this to me, and isn't it just so darling? It's so cute, and I could never figure out where to put it, but then I just, for some reason, just put it in here, and just seeing it with my remotes is so cute, and it makes me smile every time I see it, so I just left it in there. You guys can tell I make a lot of practical purchases there. I got a little juicer. Does it work? Yes. The only thing is, if whatever you're trying to juice is really small, it can be a pain. But I love it. It's like my new favorite kitchen thing. And I think this is a part of the things that make up a slow living routine where you're not just putting it into a machine or using one of those handheld juicers where you're really just watching the juice and like grinding you guys get it, you all understand. Anyway. And then I got this silver bowl. I don't know if you guys can see the bottom there, but it's engraved on the bottom. I thought this was so beautiful. I mean, look at this thing. And for some reason, don't know why, I put my Glossier lip gloss in there. I think it's because it's so bright and the colors together, and I just sit it on top of my dresser. The miscellaneous things that I end up picking up from the thrift store. It depends on the condition and where I find it, but these fabrics, I had this idea that I was gonna create a really cute photo shoot for the shop, and I did take a couple of photos that never made it anywhere. Maybe I'll show you guys, maybe I won't, I don't know, depends. But this fabric is absolutely gorgeous. It was on a roll. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use it for pillowcases, which is my first instinct to see if somebody, hey, can you make pillowcases out of this material or throw pillows? Or if I'm gonna use it for curtains. I don't know. But when it comes to things like this, like future idea stuff, I try to limit how much of this I allow myself. Otherwise, there would literally be piles of fabrics and random materials that I found at the store that I'm just like, wow, this would be great in a thing. And then this, look at it. Look at the pattern. It's incredible. I think it's silk. I don't know. And again, I don't know if pillows, some kind of curtain or wall hanging situation, don't know. Maybe I'll make it into, like, you guys know how they have those room dividers that use the crepe paper or tissue paper, using something like this or another kind of fabric instead. I don't know, but I had to get it. It was only a couple of dollars, and I was like, I feel like I could do something really cool with it. So that goes into this bin. And lastly, sometimes I pick stuff up just because I see it and I'm like, that is really interesting. And I'll just pick it up. And I'm like, okay, it's only a couple dollars, let's just see. That is how I ended up with this magazine rack I found out later. First of all, this thing was absolutely filthy. It was covered in dirt and stuff. I think somebody kept it in their garage close to where they kept soil, because in the bottom there was like a lot of soil and stuff, and as you can see, it is scratched in some places and it has this kind of, I don't know if it is like stained or something, but I haven't found a remover that's safe for acrylics that won't like warp it or change the color of it. But there are some like scuff marks and stuff on it. Later on, because I was curious, so this is like one of my favorite thrifted finds for like the kind of aesthetic, I guess, that I'm going for, where there's a mix of different styles. Like my credenza is obviously an antique. The dresser behind me is very mid-century modern, so I'm trying to be very careful about how I mix things together. I looked at the bottom and it's from a brand called Cartel, and they are still producing products, so it's not, I don't think it's a vintage item. And these are very expensive. I saw that people were reselling them for like $200. Apparently, that is a designer piece of home decor, so fancy me. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys some of the stuff that I look for, what inspires me. Clearly, a lot of it is for nostalgic reasons, but I try to temper that a bit with, practical needs. Finding something that wasn't too much or that was useful and not only decorative, because that's my thing. I like to find things that are useful and decorative. Okay, so I've noticed now that art is easy. Art is much easier to collect and store if you're not quite sure about it than other pieces are. So I just wanted to show you guys the kind of stuff that grabs my attention. This, which as you can see, it kind of fell inside because I didn't want to glue it in case I changed my mind about the mat, which I had cut at Michael's for like $4. It's free for like the mat itself is only like $3 something, and then you add in tax, but they'll cut it for you and give you a colored one for like the same amount as a regular plain one. So don't sleep on Michael's. But I don't know if you can see, if the camera will let you see some of the detail in the trees and the leaves. I found this a few years ago and it reminded me of Virginia, which is my home state. This blurry kind of kid has like a fishing pole. He's standing at a little creek. There's a tree overhead, and I just loved it. I love the texture of it, the colors. But on the other hand, I found these. It's some kind of, I don't know, is that called silk print? And the whole thing was together. I didn't buy the frame and the matting and put this in. It was all together. And it, again, because nostalgia, reminds me of those, I don't know why this was a thing, but everybody's grandma or mom had some kind of food print in their kitchen, and that's what it reminded me of. So you got the corn and then this melon one, and they're like in the same tones and everything, clearly made by the same person, and somebody really took the time to frame this. And I love the metal frame. It's in this beautiful rose gold color. But I was like, look, can you see the different colors and tones and stuff? It's so pretty. And when I saw it, I was like, this is so special. I have to get it. And that feeling is actually part of the reason why I started my shop, because then I would buy stuff like this and then try to find a place to put it and realize that it didn't quite go with anything. Now I also have this, which on the back, like, I'm gonna try to get it close so you guys can see, but on the back it says the master drawing is etched into the surface of a wax covered zinc plate. The zinc plate is then placed into an acid solution. The acid eats into the metal wherever the wax surface has been etched away and burns the drawing into the plate. Ink is then rubbed on the plate. The incised image in the plate holds the ink while the surface is wiped clean. The ink that is left in the crevices prints when damp paper is pressed against the plate surface by means of a printing press. This process allows the drawing on the ink plate to be transferred onto the paper. Each print is hand done one at a time. The inking process must be repeated every time a print is made, therefore no two etchings will be exactly alike. Some of the etchings are hand colored using acrylic paint. The etching is then signed and numbered according to the edition. And that is a quote from Diane Krumel, Gulf Coast artist. And this is one of those prints. Isn't it incredible? First thing I noticed was this glass has no glare. And I thought that was weird. So then I started researching different types of glass, and apparently for art specifically, there's different types of glass that are made, number one, so that they don't glare, and so the person can see whatever kind of art is behind, like a drawing or painting or whatever. And number two, some glass has certain qualities so that the colors and the work itself is not degraded by ultraviolet light like sunlight. I don't know if you guys have ever seen posters that are kind of bluish or greenish, especially at the thrift store. It's because they've been exposed to so much sunlight that they faded. So it's like sometimes when you grab something, you think you're just picking up a thing, and it's never that. That's why I love thrifting and secondhand stuff, is you're never just picking up stuff. There's always a story behind the stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but this is incredible, and it reminded me of where I grew up. So of course, not a fan of this frame. I don't have a lot of gold stuff in here, so it kind of sticks out, but I love the print and the explanation on the back and the time and the effort and everything. I just think it's so beautiful, and I'm glad that they have this little thing on the back so that you know what went into it. And then I found this. Is it a painting? I don't know if it is a painting or a drawing. Normally I'm not interested in art that is about the city or the state that I live in. I am not a fan of, in terms of art, I'm not a fan of those like outlines of a state. I think it's kind of silly to have your state outline, but something like this that is much more specific. I saw it and I was like, you know what? I love that this is a piece of art that depicts a part of my new city. It's so colorful, and it made me want to look up more things about my city, like more about the history, because there's some of the most amazing architecture and art museums here. I sort of saw it by accident, which happens to me a lot in thrift stores, is I'm looking for something else and I come across it, and sometimes I'll look over it, and then on my way out or back through the section, I'll come across it again and take a closer look. So on the back of this is a certificate of authenticity. And I appreciate that, because even though I got that just for a few dollars, and I wasn't at an art gallery or anything like that, I have noticed a lot of thrift stores selling items, because it could be furniture, could be home decor, could be art, at rates that to me are more in line with places that have authenticated those pieces beforehand. They've authenticated materials, dates, manufacturers, artists, instead of some guy with a warehouse full of furniture claiming that this is original, of this decade, or from this country of origin. That's my thoughts on that. I am starting to get more excited about what comes after my store is really closed, when I have the free time and I have the free space, be able to really claim the space for myself. Thank you all for spending your time here with me today. I really appreciate it. So I have more movie reviews on the way, and I'll see you guys next time.